Hey, my name is Josh Bander. Welcome back to the hashtag IBMI Everywhere show. Got Gordon Leary on here today. Thank you so much for joining today.
Oh, no problem. A pleasure to be here.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's really a pleasure to have you. And knowing how much you do for the IBMI community, what you've done for, say, Common, what you've given back to the community. Looking forward to talking to you about everything you've done. Maybe we start with your background. I think people are interested to hear about that and why you love the IBMI so much.
Well, I started on the System 36 platform and grew to the System 38 platform, eventually AS400, and now we're on the IBMI platform. I started in as a consultant and worked with many different industries, different places. And finally, I really found someplace I really enjoyed. I joined Amports like 22 years ago and ever since. And I'm now the director of IT at Amports and really enjoy everything we do on the platform and how much it's changed from the old RPG2 days to now we have these GUI environments and API-based stuff. And it's really a modern platform and it's really helped grow our business over the years.
Wow. I think one of the coolest things about Amports is one of the leading importers of cars into the United States of America. And when you're looking around in the car industry and little people know about Amports, but it's really running the show behind the scenes of making sure we get all our cars. And one of the major things I noticed this past year, there's a bridge that went down in one of the major ports affected by it. And I know, Gordon, you're out there. Mind sharing how that affected your business with that bridge going down?
Yeah, we're a port processor of automobile. So we do like 1.4 million vehicles a year. So it's a lot of vehicles. And when the Francis Scott Key Bridge went down in Baltimore, we had 3 facilities on the other side of that bridge, probably doing between those 3 facilities, 600,000 vehicles a year that are being either imported or exported out of the United States. So that has affected traffic and a lot of people's livelihood. So it's like, how did we pivot for a while until the harbor and shipway was opened back up was a big deal. And one of the things we had to do is quickly and very dynamically figure out the best way to get data into and out of our system because we were changing the way we were getting business at that point. So how we're going to keep people working was a key thing. We were actually bringing vehicles into other port facilities and have them trucked to us. So we had to change our programming very fast in order to get the data from different sources. We were importing stuff from Excel files. We were doing all kinds of changes to make sure we had data because the supply chain had changed. And that went on for about 2 months. So we were able to keep most of our workforce working. And that was with a lot of the help from our OEM manufacturers that really made a commitment to Amports to continue doing business with us, even though we couldn't get the cars directly anymore.
That's really interesting. And can you share a little bit about how the IBMI and how did it change and how is it able to be so flexible? That's a very short time frame to change so many processes and so many things. And how is it able to be so flexible?
Well, first of all, our e-tracking system is homegrown. We wrote it all ourselves. So we had the flexibility because we knew the software inside and out. We knew exactly how it worked. We knew what needed to be changed. We knew what interfaces that we can do things quickly. You don't typically get that with a software package. If I was running on an AWS server on some software package I purchased from someplace else, I may not have that flexibility to change the way I'm doing EDI, to change who I'm reporting to, and everyone I need to contact differently because of a major disaster, basically, that happened.
Wow. So I think the flexibility is really what reigns supreme in this situation, the ability to be able to move that quickly. And would you say that is the hallmark of your system overall?
Well, the flexibility has actually kept us as a premier partner to the OEMs. I have many manufacturing partners who will come to Amports first because they know that we can try something that they want to do that may be new. And they say we can pivot quickly and get the job done for them. They know Amports can quickly make programming changes and data changes with no problem. So people come to us first.
That's so interesting. One of the major reasons I wanted to reach out to you, Gordon, your success and involvement with giving back to the community and specifically Common. And I know you were involved hands-on for a long time. You want to share a little bit about your experience with Common and what drove you so much to continue to give back?
I was always an attendee of the Common conferences for many years and got to know a lot of different people. I've been a perpetual volunteer all my life. I like volunteering with the community and giving back. I started very simply with Common, just helping out on a couple committees. And eventually I joined the board and I was able to be on the board for 8 years before my terms were up. And during that period of time, I was president for 2 years. What I love about Common is giving education back to the community, is learning new things and encouraging anyone to use the boot camps. I actually put all my new people through the RPG camps because you can learn how the basics on G2, RPG 3 on how it all started. But by the time you get to the end of the boot camps, I'm doing embedded SQL, I'm doing free format RPG, and I'm doing the latest and greatest stuff that you can do with the IBM platform. And I've had guys that work for 20, 30 years and they come in and say, oh, wow, this has reinvigorated me. I didn't get a chance to do this at my old company. And Common's given us that education. So that's why we get back. That's why it's great to participate in a volunteer organization such as Commons, because you're growing the platform. And that's what Commons about, is growing the platform.
Yeah, Gordon, can you go back a little bit though, talking about you took your own developers and you put them through the courses and made them work a little bit, get them a little out of their comfort zones. And can you describe what their backgrounds were and how they grew from their old stuff, and then all of a sudden they took these courses? How did they grow?
Oh, yeah, and that's a good point. A lot of them came from environments where they were maintaining code, making some basic changes to green screens. They didn't have an opportunity to get into lead development, didn't get an opportunity to do some of the new API techniques or any form of EDI at that point. They didn't get those opportunities to do it because they were maintaining code. Either that or making simple changes here, simple changes there. And what we did is we allow them to learn. My first 2 weeks, whenever I bring someone on board, I don't even give them a project. The first thing I do is put them through a boot camp. Then I put them through some of the education stuff on the different software platforms we have. And then we give them projects in order to utilize those different things. And we start simple, but they're developing things that our younger generation wants to use. They're developing things on your phone. They're developing web interfaces. And it's all with the IBM behind the scenes. And it's our future. We got to progress away from green screen. I'm even thinking about at some point, I even just eliminate all sign-on to the green screen. Wouldn't that be something?
That'd be unique. I don't know how many shops have ever done that before.
Yeah. It's in our future, but it may not be that far off.
And what's the reason for that? Is it just more of an optics? I always find that the reason why people don't like the green screen is it just looks old. When I walk into Costco and I look at all the green screens, I was just there yesterday and I saw all the green screens going and I see all of them just like tabbing forward and flying through it. And the people are okay with it. Is it just because of an optics perspective for people to not feel that it's old? Or are we doing it because you feel like that it's going to gain productivity by it?
One of the things you got to do is when you go away from the green screen to a new environment, you don't want to give up the productivity. You're right. Costco and stuff like that, people fly through green screens. I have people that prefer the green screen. So I got to make sure that my GUI screen, the screens that fit on my mobile device, are as quick as the green screen is. One of the things I always talk about, and when we first started using handheld terminals and stuff like that, okay, you have 30 characters across and you have 15 lines. That's all we can fit on a emulated green screen on a mobile device. So you really had to keep it tight. Well, a mobile device in a GUI environment, I can actually do more with the real estate. So I can actually provide more information to the user to make them more productive. Maybe the inputs are exactly the same as the green screen, and we try to keep it exactly the same, but we want to give them more information to do their job more effectively versus having to know what they're supposed to do.
Yeah, very interesting. One of the things I always like to ask about is you've seen the platform, you've seen how it's been going. Maybe you want to talk a little bit about the future. Where do you see the future of the platform going? Right?
That's a good question. The future, the only way you have a future is to keep evolving your shop. So if you don't do that, you're not going to have a future. The future is that we have the most rock solid platforms for security, for ease of use, ease of development, and just its reliability. And not just reliability on hardware and stuff like that, but reliability on the software and the database. If you're writing your software properly and you have a solid database behind you, you're going to be better than some of your PC-based systems are out there that crash constantly or have problems constantly. And it's like, well, how are you going to get a fix for that? Well, I can do that quickly on the IBM i. So, and that's why all your key companies in banking and casinos and stuff like that, they all stay with the IBM i. It's because reliability. They can't afford for a system to go down. And
yeah, I was just doing the manufacturer that they told me if they were down, they would lose $26,000 a minute.
Yeah.
The numbers are staggering. And that's why they're on IBM i. They're like, we can't get off the platform. It's stupid.
I remember being at a conference and it was a steel company. I can't remember which one it was, but they said it was $1 million an hour for them to be down. That's just staggering to me. It's a big inconvenience. We can catch up if we're down for a little bit, but I don't ever want to be down. I don't ever want my data to be wrong either. So I always want to have the most reliable data that we can work off of. And that's what IBMI gives us. And the access to the data is just amazing. If we may not have that report, but I can do something quickly in order to get you that, and then we can turn it into something real.
That's amazing. And maybe you could explain why you've chosen to continue to use IBMI. You have a choice.
We've experimented with other, but one of the things on the IBMI platform, we've been able to pivot quickly to new things. For instance, we always ran reports to see how we did. And you're always backward looking at, oh, well, why did we have a bad month or why did we have a good month? And it was because of X, Y, Z type of thing. And we quickly changed. Within a 2-month period, we wrote all new codes and whole new sections of code to actually look into the future on what we're projecting we're going to do. So that way we can allocate labor properly. We can allocate any kind of resources that we may need. So we started future planning versus backward looking. And we did that all in a 2-month period. Now, could I have done that with a package that we purchased and go back to my vendor and say, I want to start doing this, and this is how we proceed? When can you have that done? It wouldn't be 2 months, I can tell you that. It'd probably be multi-years before I can get something like that if it was a software change. It goes back to the flexibility, and if you can imagine it, we can do it. Or even sometimes where I scratch my head a little bit and I'm like, oh, I don't know about that. Usually I can walk away and an hour later, I'm like, okay, I got an idea. How we can sell. And then we can mock it up and we can actually show the end user something quickly, even if it's not the final product at that point. It goes back to flexibility and versatility.
Flex reigns supreme. That's what one of my old teachers used to tell me. Flexibility reigns supreme. When we talk about ERP packages, and it's a build versus buy conversation. Part of the reason why you've been successful is because of the fact that you have an ERP package. You had it even RPG do 2 days, and you've modernized and you continue to invest in the platform to continue to update with the times. And for companies that are starting out, like, why would someone choose IBMI, which is a powerful, robust platform, but there aren't that many ERP packages out there that are running on IBMI? They may be running on Power, but they're not necessarily running on IBMI itself. Like, you can run SAP on Power, you can run other things on Power, but you're running SAP. You're not running a new package that you're writing yourself. So why would someone choose to use IBMI as their platform of choice to start?
Well, let me twist it a little bit. When you talk ERP, you're talking a holistic thing. You're talking operations, you're talking accounting, you're talking maybe even payroll and stuff like that. But there are certain functions that maybe a package is the right solution. For instance, we used to run R and our AP and our general ledger on our IBMI. We don't anymore. We actually went out and bought a third-party package. Our finance team's happy with it, but we wrote APIs from the IBMI to update that part of the ERP system. We're able to customize our whole operation and do exactly what we need to do. So that's an advantage to us. Now, there's plenty of great packages out there, ERP packages that run holistically on the IBMI, and that's a good thing. For one thing, there's that rock solid database behind it. So you could use your ERP package to do your operations, but I can also have custom libraries that actually do exactly what I want utilizing the database that's on the I. Now, that's a lot harder to do once a cloud-based software solution. So you own the data, you can manipulate the data, you can report on the data in different ways. So if you're starting from a new, maybe that's one reason to go IBMI versus other, because you want to do more than the package is providing for you. That's the way I would look at it, because I'm always trying to do that something different. Another point, it's a rock solid platform that's going to give you that uptime that no one else can really provide you. And not to mention DR solutions that are out there and business continuity plans that are great for a platform.
Certainly. Is there anything you'd want to share with the community?
If you're not doing it already, bring in some interns. Let them see the platform. Let them work on your platform. Give them projects to work on. I had a couple good interns the last couple summers, really did some neat work, and challenge them. Don't just give them a maintenance program. Give them something that's going to combine the skills that they're learning in school today with something that you want to learn how to do on the IBMI and up to that task. A couple of things that we did recently was, and it seems simple now, but just capturing the GPS location from the mobile device and then putting it into our database so that we know exactly where a vehicle was when it was scanned. It actually ended up being quite simple, but it was something that our legacy programmers just didn't know how to do right off the bat. We put a couple interns on these, what I'll call leading edge projects, or how to take that GPS information and display it in a Google map so that somebody can visually see where a vehicle is physically located. And some side projects using to combine that school learned technology with what we're doing with the IBM. Get some fresh ideas. Yeah, I've been in the business for more than 30 years now, but there's stuff I can learn from that guy that's coming right out of school, and be open to that, because that's the only way we're going to learn, or else we'll be stuck in our green screens.
Yeah, I think that's so interesting. I think when we are able to be honest with ourselves and look at the new talents, or looking at some of the other people that are around us that have fresh ideas, different ways of doing things, and their ways of doing things are not necessarily the wrong way. They're just
Yeah.
different than ours. And I think that being able to try things out, specifically, I've been seeing a lot of people are using AI to do stuff,
Yeah.
and the amount of productivity that they're finding. And even though that's different than the way we've been doing it for generations, waterfall style, but all of a sudden using CI/CD or using AI to boost that development processing is just unbelievable. On your end, Gordon, with AI coming in, where do you see AI and IBMI coming out and changing the IBMI world?
I actually had a friend come over to my house on Saturday, and he's heavy in AI. And, it's like, teach me, teach me. So he was showing me a few things. There's a couple sessions I've been to at Common that they're resting using Watson to figure out a delivery route. You just throw them the data, and it'll come off a delivery route. The best way to, in my case, process cars that are more actively for truckers to come in and pick them up. That's one way to utilize AI. Haven't done it yet, but it's in my mind on how I want to do it. Using AI to make your workers more productive, one of the things I learned, might be the first step, because then you get early adoption from your users. Not necessarily throw AI into your core applications, but how do I make them more productive in doing their job every day? Maybe formatting a letter, making sure emails are going out properly. I've been using it recently to revamp job descriptions, make it look nicer, but I want to include this element and this element, and it'll redo a job description for me. So it's making myself more productive and getting the job that I may have spent 2 or 3 hours writing a job description down to 15, 20 minutes. And that's one way of making yourself more productive in there. Now, how do I do it with the IBMI? So that's when you start talking about some of the ideas about the trucker routes, or what cars should I process to make it more efficient because they're going to leave the yard quicker. That's something that we can start developing in AI. And we haven't done it yet. The toughest question in AI, I feel, is what problem do you want to solve first? That's where I always get stuck a little bit. And just exposing yourself on your personal productivity level will help you figure out what you're going to do in this level.
Yeah, I think that's the hardest part, is to figure out what do we need to get done first, and like, what are the challenges, and just the art of the possibility. You open your eyes and are able to see the things that are doing. And this is, I think, going back to what our real main point is. And this is, I think, one of the reasons why you love Common so much and as involved in the IBMI community, is by talking to others and learning from others what they're doing is actually the way to become better yourself, because you now learn how to do things. There are things that are just the thought of it. Talking about route planning, like, you can do that. And the fact that it works, that you can use IoT sensors to use that and track their GPS, that's an unbelievable thing. But I only knew that because of the fact I spoke with you. And it goes with everything else that we do. And I think that's really important for IBMI as a community to be able to talk with each other. And I think that's what we do. And that's one of the nicest things about this community in general. And Gordon, is there anything else you'd like to share?
We got a great platform. Keep your education up. Keep on listening to these podcasts. I remember when I first started listening to some of the early podcasts that came out, and yours as well. It's like, sometimes I'm like, man, those guys are really behind the curve. We're so much further ahead. And the next podcast I listened to, I was like, oh man, we're really behind the curve. I have a lot to learn. Keep listening to podcasts. Keep getting your education either through Common or a local users group or just online. Just keep that up, because no one's perfect. We have a long way to go. Your business is going to keep changing. And if you don't change with it, you're in trouble. You want a successful career, and you need to change. You need to drive change to your business. I think that's the big thing. And you can do that with your IBMI platform.
Well, thank you so much, Gordon, for joining us today. Really appreciate your time. You know where to find me. If you want to share any IBMI stories, or you want to just be a guest on the show, let me know. You feel free to reach out. Thanks so much, Gordon, for being here, and talk to you all soon.
Thank you, Josh.